you very much for being with me. Okay, Charles Karol Nowak from Nowak Migration. Today about how to apply for Australian skilled visa. It's quite complex process and there are a couple of things which you must take into consideration. I will try to explain how the whole process works, so you might have a better understanding. If you're across of everything, ANZSCO, SkillSelect, EOI and everything, that's fine. It's probably gonna be some sort of the refresher for you. But if you are new to this kind of stuff, I hope I will give you some better understanding about how a skilled visa process works in Australia. All right. So let's go ahead. Happy for you to be through the whole presentation, but if for whatever reason you will not be able to be until the end, I think this presentation, this webinar, seminar will be still available on the Facebook after I will finish, but I would like you to be. I'm trying to make it as interactive as possible, and at the end I will be answering the questions, but please keep your questions related to the skilled visa. And what are the chances? Probably a lot of you would like to ask, what are the chances for the particular occupation, for particular visa? Crystal ball. All right, so let's get to the point. What is it gonna be about today? My head is, going back and forth. I have got a couple of screens and looking what's going on. And all right, so this is essentially the presentation. Let's remove this thingy. I know I could do it in the PowerPoint, but Word works better, easier for me. All right, so Charles from Nowak Migration. This is the phone to my office. Contact number, Karol Nowak. Actually, you know what? Mar12800062. I got this question whether I am the credible person, whether I am the one who is the registered migration agent, and you can go to the MARA website, new incognito window. Yeah, you can go to the MARA website and check my number. I'm over there. All right, so Charles, registered migration agent. First two numbers of the MARA number, migration agent registration number. First two numbers is the year when the migration agent was registered. 10 years ago. Sometimes I see, my competition, the other migration agents, and sometimes I see senior migration agent, experienced migration agent. What is your number? 21 something something. Okay, so registered last year and already saying that he or she is the experienced serial migration agent. Interesting, whatever. If you want to know if your migration agent is experienced, have a look on first two numbers of the MARN, okay? Let's get booking. If you want to book the consultation with me, go to this website, Nowak Migration, booking. All right. Skill visa. I will explain today how you will choose the right occupation, ANZSCO codes, skills assessment, how it works, the point systems, what are you getting points for. States criteria for an invitation, SkillSelect. I think actually it's one word, and it's SkillSelect. Visa application, and at the end question and answers. All right. So let's start with the ANZSCO. What is ANZSCO? Australian and New Zealand Standard Classification of Occupations. Some time ago, Australian Bureau of Statistics had an idea to put all of known occupations in Australia into some groups, subgroups, unit groups, whatever. So at the moment when you're applying for the visa based on your skills, work experience, qualifications, you need to choose relevant ANZSCO code for your occupation. Okay, and in general, there are some occupations which are eligible for almost any visa, and there is a lot of occupations which are eligible for almost absolutely nothing. And in ANZSCO, there is about 1,100 different occupations identified. But if you have a look on the DAMAs, designated area migration agreements, in some of the DAMAs there is the ANZSCO code, which you cannot find in the ANZSCO for the occupations which are not sort of identified in the ANZSCO. So ANZSCO, it's not ideal, but that's how the whole visa system works. It's based on the ANZSCO codes, all right? So you need to find your occupation in the ANZSCO to find out if you might be eligible for any skilled visa or any work visa, training visa, whichever, which could be eligible for the, if your occupation would be eligible for any visa. You can go to the Home Affairs website. There is the skilled occupation list, all right? It's not ideal, but it is there. You can put the name of your occupation, let's say chef. All right, list of occupations, MLT, SSL, assessing authority, TRA, the visas chef might be eligible for 189, 190, 491, 489. Home Affairs is a bit behind themselves, but yeah, 189, 190, 491, these are the ones which we are discussing here today. Skills assessment TRA. If you will have a look at cook, 190, 491, 189, it's not here. Pastry cook, 190, 491, 189, it's not here. So it's showing which ones you are eligible for, but it's not showing which one you are not eligible for. It's also showing the list of occupations. Winemaker, for example. Role, original list. 491, yes. 189, 190, no. So if you know what is your occupation, you can go straight to this website. You can simply Google it. Google skilled occupation list, skill list, Home Affairs, and you will find it. Okay, skilled occupation list, immigration and citizenship, and there you are. Okay. So, list of occupations and what sort of visa your occupation might be eligible for. So there is no point to ask whether you can apply for the 189 visa if you are a cook, because you are simply not eligible for 189. There is no point asking if you can be eligible for 190 or 189 if you are a winemaker, because you are not eligible for 190 and 189. So, choosing the right occupation, ANZSCO, okay, that's one thing, and then skill occupation list, it's another thing. Over here, where is that ANZSCO thing? Over here. All right, so let's say chef. If you're not sure what is your occupation, what are the tasks for your occupation, sometimes it's hard to identify in the ANZSCO, and I have got this sort of issue with quite a lot of clients where we know what is the occupation, we know what the person is doing, but finding what actually is the most appropriate ANZSCO code for their occupation, quite often it's quite challenging. But tasks include planning menus, estimating food and labor costs. This is also for the restaurant managers. So chefs are doing a lot of stuff with restaurant managers would be doing as well. But chefs are also preparing and cooking food. And I see quite often with the chefs on their resumes or references from the employer, it's everything apart from cooking, but that's quite important part of a chef's job. Chef and specializations, these are just probably most of the chefs, not most, executive chef is not over here, but don't get limited to those specializations. It's just a couple of examples, all right? Chef, bankers, that's one of the occupations. If you're a banker, you can go over here and write banker. There is no such occupation. Then you go with, all right, finances, finance manager, finance managers, financial brokers, credit and loan officers. Sometimes you are almost not able to find your occupation, but you are looking for the closest one. Sometimes what you do would be across the couple of different occupations, but again, you need to identify one occupation for which the majority of your tasks would be against that particular occupation. Okay, so ANZSCO, once you will be able to find your occupation, once you will be able to find your ANZSCO code, then you go to skilled occupation list. You will have a look which visas you might be eligible for. Okay, and then you know what visa your occupation is eligible for. Let's say software engineer or nurses, 189, 190, 491. Then you check the skills assessment. Okay, what is the skills assessment authority for your occupation? Because skills assessment is mandatory for any provisional, almost any provisional or permanent visa based on your skills qualifications in Australia. And sometimes you might have a lot, 10, 20 years of the work experience in the particular occupation, but if the skills assessment authority is saying that you must have a bachelor, you will not be able to get the skills assessment. And then if you are not able to do the skills assessment, you might have the English on the proficient level, many years of the work experience, everything, but without the skills assessment, there is no way you can get the visa. And essentially, there is the combined list of occupations, LIN 19051. If we'll go over there, you will find the combined list is MLT-SSL. All right, so those are for 189 only. Not only MLT-SSL is for 189, 190s, and 491s. Then there is no. Let's get back. MLT-SSL in general is for 189s. No, MLT-SSL is for 03. 189, 190, and 491. I was right. Then there is the ST-SOL, which is essentially for 190s and 491s. And then there is ROL, which is for 491s only. And then you look where is your occupation. If your occupation is on the MLT-SSL, 189, 190, 491. You are looking at those three. But 491, there is state nominated and family sponsored. So 491 family sponsored is MLT-SSL. So MLT-SSL, once again, 189 independent and 491 family sponsored. ST-SOL is for 190s and 491s state nominated, and then there is ROL, regional occupation list, which is for 491s state nominated, not family sponsored. The family sponsored, your occupation must be on the MLT-SSL. Okay, so that's where you look whether your occupation is eligible for the particular visa. So ANZSCO, that's you look what is the ANZSCO code for your occupation. Then either this instrument to have a look which visa your occupation might be eligible for, or you go to that Home Affairs website with the skilled occupation list. Okay. And skills assessment, if you will have a look on this instrument, there are those list of occupations, but next to the occupation there is also assessing authority. So essentially, what is the skills assessment? The relevant skills assessment authority, skills assessing authority, is essentially checking your qualifications, work experience, which you might have gained in Australia or overseas, and they are considering whether it is comparable with sort of Australian standards. Okay, and different skills assessment authorities are responsible for different occupations. In general, you can see VETASES over here, for example. They are responsible for quite a lot of occupations. IML Institute, they are for the managers, responsible for a couple of occupations. But in general, you can see that for each occupation, there is usually one skills assessment authority responsible. Apart from accountants, there are 3 different skills assessment authorities. I think engineering managers, they could go through Engineers Australia or through VETASES, and that would be more or less it. In general, for each occupation, one skills assessment authority, but the particular skills assessment authority could be responsible for a lot of different occupations. And to do the skills assessment, you have to have a look in the particular skills assessment authority's website. What are the requirements? Sometimes you must have relevant qualifications plus a couple of years work experience. Sometimes you don't really have to have any qualifications, especially with the TRA and trades. A couple of years of your work experience can substitute your qualifications. It depends on your occupation. Sometimes you might have a bachelor, sometimes you might have the diploma, sometimes certificate is enough, but in general you must do the skills assessment through the relevant skills assessment authority, which is prescribed in this instrument. All right, and if you will go to that website, Home Affairs website, with the occupations, it says which one is the relevant skills assessment authority for your occupation. You can go over there with us, for example, and you can have a look on the website. Skills assessment for migration, let's say professional occupation, restaurant manager, quite popular. Restaurant manager. General occupation, go to general occupation. They also do the trades. Despite trades, TRA is responsible for the occupations, but VETASES is doing also trades on behalf of the TRA through the Overseas Skills Assessment Program. Carpenter, trade occupation. See, go to the trade occupations. So if you will find your occupation, if you will find what your occupation is eligible for, then you go to the skills assessment, relevant skills assessment authority, and you will have a look what are the requirements for your occupation. Back to restaurant manager. Go to general occupations and professional occupation list. They have got the whole list, and for quite a lot of occupations they have got the information sheet. Agricultural scientists. So it's quite handy. They are almost, spoon feeding people. All right, so job description, specializations, whatever. Skills assessment, occupation requires you must have bachelor degree or higher and highly relevant major field of study. Then employment, tasks include. So honestly, they are trying to do their best to explain people what is required for the skills assessment, and in general, each and every skills assessment authority has got quite good information about the requirements for skills assessments. We are also helping people. We are assisting people with the skills assessment as part of our process of the assistance with the visa, skills assessment, and so on. So combined list of occupations for the skills assessment. On that list you can see what your occupation could be eligible for and which skills assessment authority is relevant to your occupation. So you know what is your occupation, you know the ANZSCO code, you know what is the skills assessment authority. Let's say you are able to fulfill the requirements for the skills assessment authority, you can get the skills assessment. Great. We are getting them there. Then there is something called point system. You're getting points for various things. You can get the points for age, 25, 30. This is the sweet spot. If you are between 25 and 33, 30 points. If you are 45 or over, end of story. You are not eligible for the skilled visa. You must be up to 44 to be eligible for 189, 190 or 491. So see, it's the combination. Skills assessment is the must. You must be under 45. You need to get enough points, and I get to there. But you are not applying for the visa. You are lodging expression of interest that you are interested in getting the visa, but you are lodging the EOI and you are hoping to get the invitation to lodge the visa application. But getting back to the points, you can get the points for the age, for the level of your English, competent, IELTS 6 or PT 50, or there are other tests which could be considered. It's an absolute minimum. If you have got the passport from US, Canada, UK, Ireland, New Zealand, you don't have to sit an English test, but you will be considered that your English is on the competent level. All right. If you want to get extra points, you will have to sit an English test and score either proficient and superior. What's good with this points table on the Home Affairs website? There is additional information about English language skills and so on and so on. Skilled employment overseas for less than 3 years, 0 points. Skilled employment in general after your qualifications, 3 up to 5 years, 5 points. But in Australia, 3 up to 5 years is giving you 10 points. So it's better to have an employment in Australia than overseas, because that's giving you more points. 1 year of the work experience in Australia, 5 points. Overseas, 1, 2, 0 points. Qualifications, PhD, 20 points. Bachelor, 15. Trade or whatever, 10 points. Just getting the skills assessment is giving you 10 points. You can get points for the highest qualification, and you can have the points once. If you want bachelor of something, and master of something, it's still 15 points, not 15 plus 15 plus 15, it's just 15, all right? Recognition of your qualifications, there is some additional information over here. Specialist qualifications, so that's for if you studied in Australia, you can get extra 10 points if it would be postgraduate degree by research, doctorate or master's. So master's by research, not master by coursework, master by research. In any of these, you can get extra 10 points. Australian study requirement. If you would have studied in Australia for 2 years, it does not have to be bachelor, could be diploma of something, certificate of something, you can get extra 5 points. Professional year in Australia, that's for the IT professionals, accounting, IT or engineering, only those people, but you would have to study in Australia, and then on 485 you can do the professional year. CCL test, that's another where you can get the points. If you would have studied in regional Australia, that's another one, you can get extra 5 points. Partner skills, if you are single, or if your partner is Australian citizen or permanent resident, you can get extra 10 points. If your spouse, if you are in the relationship and your spouse or de facto partner has got the competent English, 5 points. If your partner would have the skills assessment with the occupation on the same list as your occupation, you can get extra 10 points, all right? Then the state nomination. 15 is for 491 and 5 is for 190. So you can have a look over here where you can get the points. Then you can go to points calculator on Home Affairs website. This calculator is dodgy as. I won't be swearing over here, but well, it is as it is. Let's say 25 to 33, English language ability. The good thing is that there are links to relevant information for the things. Skilled employment experience. This is the handy thingy, because then it's telling you what is the requirement. So that's interesting, and not everybody knows that. If your work experience in the same ANZSCO group could be considered toward points for the work experience. It's not only in your occupation, but if it's within the same ANZSCO group, that's fine. So developer, programmer, software engineer, that's fine. Accountants, taxation accountant, general accountant, if it's within the same group, could be counted toward the points. Overseas skills assessment, Australian skills assessment, the occasional qualifications. Check if you can claim these. Again, they are sort of providing the basic information, and sometimes from some countries it's not clear whether your qualifications from your country could be considered the same in Australia, especially Brazil and some other countries. You might have a bachelor. If you have studied for 3 years and got a bachelor from Brazil, for example, in Australia it's gonna be very likely considered as the advanced diploma, not as the bachelor. You can go to the country education profile, the website provided by Department of Education, and I'm using that on the regular basis. Or you can go to the vet assets. They're having this sort of service where they can employment, professional memberships, skills assessment, where they can verify your qualifications from overseas, but they are using the country education profile on the Department of Education website. So with the qualifications from overseas, be careful, because people are quite often overclimbing over here. Work experience, that's another one where people are quite often overclimbing. And for any Australian employment, you must have had substantive visa or bridging visa A or bridging visa B, okay? If you have had the work experience on the bridging visa C or bridging visa E, you cannot climb that work experience toward the points for the 189, 190, 491. Not many people are knowing that, so be careful. Substantive visa A or B. C, end of the story. You cannot climb that work experience toward the points for any of these skilled visas. So your highest qualifications, let's say bachelor or master's, Australian study requirement, yes. Specialist qualifications, no. You can click through this thingy. CCL, no. Studying religion in Australia, let's say no. Partner skill qualification, you are single. Professional in Australia, no. Nomination from the state for 190. Remember, you ticked 190 at the very beginning, so yes. You tick yes if you're interested in 190, then it's showing you a point summary where you can get the points. And 75 in theory, 65 is an absolute minimum, and 75 in theory you will satisfy the requirements for the Home Affairs, but whether it's gonna be good enough for the state invitation, that's another story. And if you wanna have a look, if you want to change something over here, specialist qualification, if you will get extra points for the proficient English. Alright, proficient. Scroll down, and then English language test is changing to 10. So you can play around and you can see how many points you will get, and there is this additional information if you can claim the particular thingy. It's not that user friendly, but that's something which you may consider. There are some websites which are providing also the points calculator, which are a bit more user friendly, but well, this is Home Affairs, so in theory this should be correct. But do not rely blindly on whatever you can find on Home Affairs. I found in the past that they are either not up to date or providing wrong information. Okay, so be careful. Most of the time they are right, it's all good, but not always. All right, so we've got the points. You can check how many points you can score. And then you are looking at the state's criteria. If your occupation is on 189, yeah, that's fine. You can lodge the EOI, you got the points, and you can lodge the EOI, and you can hope to get the invitation. But then, if you are aiming for 190 or 491 state nominated, you are looking at the state's criteria. And each and every state has got their own criteria for different occupations, for different streams, either for people who are in Australia or for the people who are overseas. So essentially the best way forward, if you know what is your occupation, is to go to each and every state separately and checking over there what are your chances of getting the invitation for the particular occupation. If your occupation is not eligible for the visa in that particular state, there is essentially no point lodging the EOI, ROI, or whatever they are calling it, expression of interest, whatever, because you will simply not, you will never get the invitation. Never say never. It's very unlikely that you will get the invitation. And essentially, if you are in Australia, states are inviting people almost only if you are living in the particular state, okay? They are not inviting people from the other states. Western Australia is sort of exemption. They have invited in last financial year, and I believe they will be still inviting for this financial year people from the other states. But if you get the pre-invitation, you will have to find an employer who will give you the job contract, okay, to get the invitation from Western Australia. So it's tricky. They might be inviting people from the other states, but unless not inviting, pre-inviting people from the other states, but then you will have to get the job offer, and then they may consider inviting you for the visa. So essentially, you would need to go. If you are in Australia, essentially you are looking at the criteria of the particular state. If you are overseas, you might have a look what are the criteria of different states, and generally you are going to each and every state's list of occupation. The list is over here, or you may simply Google it. Google Queensland list of occupations. Migration Queensland, Queensland skill occupation list, skilled workers living in Queensland, living offshore, graduates of a Queensland university, that's another one. Small business owners operating in regional Queensland, so that's something, the SBO visa, small business owner visa, 491. In Queensland, it works, this way. And Queensland is, in general, if you are living and working in Queensland, they are potentially inviting, that they are open to all of the occupations which are on the LIN 19051. You remember I showed you the list of these occupations which are eligible for 189, 190, 491. So Queensland is open to the whole list for the onshore candidates. For the offshore candidates, They also have got the list of occupations, and you might have a look whether your occupation would be on the list. Where is that? Important notice, documentation checklist. Yeah, you will have QSOL, offshore applicants. There we are. Okay, they might have the additional requirements that you might have, a couple of years of the work experience. But the fact that your occupation is on the list does not mean that you will get the invitation. You may put your best, foot forward, create the EOI, tick the Queensland. Don't tick all of the states, click the Queensland. Each and every state wants to see that you are interested in that particular state. So do not create one EOI for 181, 189, 190 and 491, ticking all of the states, because probably the only invitation you might get with something like that, it's 189 if you would be eligible. Otherwise, states will not be interested to give the invitation to somebody who is not really committed to that particular state. So sometimes you might tick both 190 and 491, but tick the particular state. It's fine to lodge a couple of different EOIs if you are overseas. If you are in Australia, different story. Usually you are lodging the EOI just for your state. So that's for Queensland. New South Wales didn't release the list of occupations for this financial year yet. Victoria, list of occupations. That's another one, and Victoria has got a different system. You lodge the EOI and then you are lodging the ROI on the Victorian system. Then in Victoria for 190, are they open to all of the occupations? Yes. So all occupations included in the combined list might be eligible for Victoria, but then you lodge the ROI and you are arguing that you are worthy. What else? ACT, Australian Capital Territory. They have got something called a matrix system. There is the list of occupations which are eligible, potentially eligible, but then Canberra matrix. You have got the matrix system, and you are, applying to the matrix system, showing that you are living in Canberra, you are not living in Canberra, how many years of the work experience, and so on and so on. So lodging EOI is one thing, but going through this matrix system in Canberra is the other thing. So it's not only about lodging the EOI, it's also about fulfilling the state's requirements and putting your best foot forward to convince the state that you are worthy. If you are living and working in the particular state, your chances are quite good. If you are living in another state, not really. Quite often I'm getting the question, which state is the best to move, to get the chances, to get the invitation. There is no simple answer to that, and there is a lot of different factors, but in general the states are promoting people who are already living and working in the particular state. Probably the best one would be the one where you can find an employer. And if you're on the visa with the full-time work rights, 485, almost any state, okay? If you're on the student visa, Queensland, for example, in general is not inviting people on the student visa. So if you're on the student visa, forget about the potential invitation from Queensland for the skilled visa. So each and every state has got their own criteria which you must fulfill, and sometimes it's like, all right, so I have got 100 points, I will move to that state, and after 3 months I will get the invitation. No. You might or you might not. Tasmania, they became a victim of their own popularity. A few years ago they have opened the program and they said, come to Tasmania, study over here for half a year and then you will get the invitation. Half a year later they said, yeah, you have to study for 1 year to get the invitation. Then 18 months later they said you will have to study for 1 year something relevant to your occupation and you will at least have the job offer, blah 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 and so on. Because more and more people are moving to that particular state and the states are having a limited number of invitations they can use. I show you. So it's not like they can invite whoever they want. They are getting from Australian government a number of invitations they can use, and they can use only as much as they got for the financial year, no more. So if they will have 10,000, EOIs, they need that they will have to that they can invite only as many people as they have got the invitation. So another 8,000 will be left off. And I saw some comments on the group, some posts on the group that moved to Tasmania 4 years ago and the requirements have changed, and 4 years ago later I'm still trying to get the invitation. So it's not like you're moving to the particular state and it's guaranteed that you will get the invitation. South Australia was quite successful, quite small state, and they got quite a lot of places comparing to the other states. Queensland is getting more than South Australia, despite being much larger. Northern Territory, in general, where you can find the job, that's probably the best idea. Find a job, talk to an employer if they would be willing to help you in the future with your visa, and think about potential pathway to the employer visa, and the skilled visa 189, 190, 491. It's probably your plan B. Do not make it plan A. You have to work in your occupation. It's not like you are coming to Australia to study, you will get the points, and once you will get 100 points, you will get the invitation. No. Each and every state is looking at your employability, whether you are a skilled professional contributing to the local economy. I know you have been studying, you have spent this many thousands of dollars for the study, but they are looking at whether you will work in your occupation. It's about a shortage in the particular region. If they need people with the particular skills, because according to the job ads, vacancies which are available in the particular state, they are looking at this. So they're inviting people who are already working or potentially having a job offer. It's all about employability, okay? So states nominations, you have to look at each and every state, what are the current criteria, what are the state, what are the list of occupations. If you are overseas and if you don't really mind where you will live, and if you consider 491, yeah, you are looking at each and every state, okay? If you're in Australia, you are really looking at the particular state you are living in, what are the criteria. So states criteria, what's next? SkillSelect and expression of interest. So let's say you have got your English sorted, you have got your skills assessment sorted, and now you are sort of ready to apply. Okay, but apply for what? If you will have on the Home Affairs website, subclass 190 for 91, the same process, they say, check your occupation on the skilled occupation list, you have 65 points, you are eligible. Yeah, 65 points, I am eligible, I can apply for 190. Not really. Submit an expression of interest in the SkillSelect, that's what we are talking about over here. Wait for invitation to apply for this visa. Yeah, if you have got 65 points and you will lodge the expression of interest in the EOI, okay, EOI, and you will wait for the invitation from Victoria, it's never going to happen. If you will, even with the 100 points, and if your occupation is in demand over there, ACT the same. States are having their own criteria, their own ways of dealing with the things. You might need to lodge the ROI or whatever on the state's website. You might, contact them somehow. Gather your documents, for God's sake. That should be over here before submitting. You don't really lodge the EOI without having the skills assessment, English and everything in hand. If you will get the invitation, you will get 60 days to apply for the visa, and states are asking for the evidence. They are not giving the invitation straight away. You will get the pre-invitation and they will say, yeah, we are considering to give you the invitation, but show us what you've got. You have claimed that you are nurse, IT professional, whatever, show us the skills assessment. I don't have it, I will do it quickly. All right, so next they will refuse and they will go with another person. So check, gather your documents, submit, and then potentially you can write. If you will get the invitation, then you apply for the visa within the 60 days. But SkillSelect, alright? So if you would have your skills assessment in hand, if you will have the English in hand and everything, the evidence for your work experience and whatever, then you go to the SkillSelect system. You lodge the expression of interest. Return to homepage. Make an expression of interest. Create an EOI in SkillSelect. So yes, I have read and agreed, blah blah blah. Next, then you are providing the basic information about you, family name, given names, sex, female or male or other, okay, date of birth, country of birth, the basic information. The next, then you will have to create to provide the email, and then the EOI number will be created, and then you will have to log into the system and family name, whatever, date of birth, 1/1/1900, no, 01/01, 1990, let's do it this way, country, citizenship, yes, another country, no, other passports, no, country of residence, whatever, first from the top, have a partner, no, relationship status, never married, let's say never married, next, other confirmation is correct, yes, next. And then it's asking you for the passport and email and the secret questions in case if you would forget your passport to recover your access to the EOI. So once we provide the information over here, and then you go next, then the EO number will be generated, and then you can log into the system with your passport and EOI number, okay? And then you will provide the information about your work experience, skills, occupation, and so on and so on. And then in the SkillSelect you can tick, the states which you are interested in, the type of the visa. Maybe actually we'll do another webinar about how to go through the UI, but that's for another hour, so not today. That's how it works. You can play with that. You don't have to submit if you don't have all of the documents in hand, but you can create the EOI and you can play with the system. All right. So that's how you lodge the create and submit the expression of interest. So yeah, expression of interest, if the state would be interested to nominate you for the visa, 189s are being managed by Home Affairs directly, so they are not checking any documents, they're issuing the invitation to lodge for 189, and 491 family nominated. It's managed by Home Affairs, they are issuing the invitations, they are not checking any documents. 190s and 491s state nominated. States are sending so-called pre-invitation. It's essentially, yep, all right, so we are considering to invite you for the visa, but first show us what you've got. They don't want to lose the places. They have got the limited number of places, and they're not really interested in inviting people who cannot get the visa because they don't have the skills assessment qualifications or overclaim the English or whatever, or we're just playing with the system. So they will ask for the English skills assessment, some other evidence, some evidence that you are really familiar with the state and that you are committed to the state. Sometimes if you are, especially in Australia, already working in the particular state, some evidence from the employer that yes, you are working, yes, the position is available for you for another 2-3 years or whatever. And once the state is satisfied with the evidence, then they will send you the invitation to lodge the visa application. And once you will get the invitation for the visa application, then again in the SkillSelect you will get the button apply for the visa, okay? And once you will click the button apply for the visa, then that it will redirect you to the IMI account, and then you will have to log into the IMI account, and then that's how you apply for the visa if you are invited for 189, 190, 491. You cannot apply for these visas directly from your IMI account. Normally, when you apply for the visa, you go to your IMI account, and from the drop-down list, you are choosing the relevant application. With these ones, no. Once you will get the invitation, the button will appear on your SkillSelect account. You are clicking on that button, the link is redirecting you to the IMI account, and then you can apply for the visa. All right, so that's how more or less it would work. What else? Yeah, so listen, basic information how the whole process works. It might be a bit chaotic, but probably I could talk for the whole day about different occupations, different ways, different skills assessments, and so on and so on. And it wouldn't be enough. We assisted a lot of people with different skills assessment, different visas. We've got quite a few clients in the pipelines who are the aspirants for the skilled visas, and sometimes you're hoping for the skilled visa, but if your employer is willing to help you with getting your permanent residency, if we go ahead with the ENS, if employer is willing to go ahead, yeah, we go with the ENS. It could be a bit more expensive, but more sort of straightforward, and you are not in the mercy of the state. What else?